My name is Kareem Estefan, and I graduated in 2012. I wrote my thesis on the young video artist Ryan Tricardon, focusing on themes of sort of 24/7 media culture, the role of history in a post-human sort of digital contemporary, and specifically how his video installations sort of move between utopian and dystopian figurations of the present. I've continued to look at themes of how contemporary artists are engaging with the politics of digital media and surveillance. I've taken a little bit more of a focus towards visual culture from the Middle East that's doing that, but so while Ryan Tricardon's work is not central, certainly a lot of the themes that I explored in the thesis are. Since I graduated, I've been writing a lot. I've been writing articles about contemporary art and media and the relationship between art and politics for magazines including Art in America, Art Agenda, New York Times Tea Magazine, Bomb Magazine, Hyperallergic. But I've mostly been working as an editor, the associate editor of Creative Time Reports. It's an online magazine that was founded about 2.5 years ago that features artists' writings and videos and multimedia projects on social and political issues. So I work commissioning and editing their projects and actually partnering with a lot of larger media outlets such as The Guardian or Al Jazeera America to bring artists' voices into a wider public. I worked with Trevor Paglin, photographer and artist, who decided that shortly after the revelations of Edward Snowden about mass surveillance from the NSA, that in news stories circulating about the NSA, this sort of place that we all know is looking at us, we didn't know what it looked like. We weren't looking back at them. And there was only one image that circulated of the NSA, which was actually a stock image dating back to the 70s that the agency itself revealed. So in conversation with Trevor, we decided to fly over the NSA with a helicopter and take aerial photos of the NSA as well as other spy agencies, the NGA and the NRO. We did that in collaboration with The Intercept, which is an online magazine launched by Glenn Greenwald and Laura Poitras, the journalists who broke the Edward Snowden story. So it ended up being a sort of photo essay about how to visualize the government sites that are, in a sense, visualizing and databasing and amassing images of the rest of the world, and what it would mean to have them be more visible, more public as well. I studied comparative literature at NYU as an undergraduate and had been writing about performance, poetry, literature, as a freelancer in New York, and was friends with a lot of poets who were thinking about contemporary art and visual culture. And my way into the program was finding out that this was a program sort of that was modeled in a lot of ways on a poetics program that also thought about poetics in the broadest sense, the making of images, the crafting of the media environment that we live in. And I was really drawn to it as an interdisciplinary program that is taught by poets, by journalists, by scholars, and where the craft of writing is sort of regarded as equally important as understanding the history of images and how they circulate and have impact on the world. So it offered something that I was not aware of in any other programs, where there was both the sort of rigorous kind of way of thinking and theorizing about images very broadly, not just about sort of images within contemporary art, but all sorts of images in the world, but also one committed to the practice of writing, and that really gives kind of deep level of practice. My writing definitely changed in the course of the MFA program. I think it was, I can just say, sort of fanboyish before I entered the program and became much more critical, more layered. And I learned various genres of writing as well. I mean, previously I knew how to do an academic paper, but I didn't know how to do a 1,000-word review for a magazine like Art in America, nor had I experimented with aspects of writing that might be more performative or might do something of a blurring between creative and critical practices. So I was introduced to a range of forms of writing, but also given the kinds of theory and history that made my writing more rigorous. A subject like information theory might actually best be approached by a poet who's maybe the last person that you would expect to do a course on information or network theory. And I think that that's indicative of something about the program at large, which is that it has a very heterodox way of approaching what are maybe pretty contemporary subjects, things that are spoken about in a lot of programs, but more from the approach of someone who is perhaps interested because the theories challenge something that they hold to be dear or true in some way. I mean, my own experience of writing my thesis was with someone who strongly disagreed with the claims that I was making about the artist I wrote about, but who challenged me much more than someone who might have liked that artist more. And so the kinds of questions that you get from professors who are deeply invested in knowing why a phenomenon is occurring, whether or not they sort of support that phenomenon. There's a kind of boundless curiosity that's implied there, and that's really very valuable and rare. So I'll be starting a PhD program at Brown University in the fall in modern culture and media. And for a few years, I've really valued doing the practice of writing and editing in art nonprofits and in magazines, but have realized that I really enjoy teaching, in part because I'm also teaching at the School of Visual Arts in the Visual and Critical Studies department now, and have wanted to focus my research and do more in-depth research that's largely based on a lot of the courses that I was introduced to in art criticism and writing. So I took an incredible course called Image Capture on the history of the moving image that looks more broadly than film, looking into practices of surveillance today, for example. And a lot of classes on the relationship between art and politics. These courses sort of led me to want to do a PhD program looking at visual culture in an interdisciplinary way, and thinking about the way that sort of media shape our environment. So it took a couple years of practice and then a few years of practicing in the world to recognize that I wanted to do further research, but the MFA was an invaluable part of leading me to that. I learned a few concrete lessons while in the workshops, especially, that are part of art criticism and writing. I always struggled with deadlines before being in this program, and I feel like very quickly I became much more disciplined by doing a few pieces of writing every week, and learned what it would be like to turn around a review for an art magazine shortly after seeing an exhibition, but also actually learned how talking in class, writing notes, thinking together with the other students became part of sort of developing an idea, and I didn't have to think of the scary blank page and then moving from that until a completed piece, but really a lot of the conversations and the notes that were natural parts of this program developed into fuller pieces for me. I also think that the way that I thought about research and how theory might inform my writing changed in the sense that I was introduced to a much more expanded canon than is present at a lot of other programs that I'm aware of. So I came into thinking about images by thinking about magic with the theories of Giordano Bruno, and learned how histories that often are sort of either relegated to a distant past or dismissed during certain moments, trends in contemporary theory might actually speak to the present in a way that is not immediately perceptible, and that the professors here have a great sense of because of the variety of approaches that they take. I stay in touch with a lot of the classmates that I had during the time that I was here. In a lot of ways, some are colleagues. They're working at other art magazines, so we're in touch both professionally and personally. But I've also kept in touch or begun to know people who passed through the program in later years. I mean, I feel that the people who are drawn to this program are the kinds of people that I want to know because they value the practice of writing together with theories of the image, and that's again a sort of rare combination or rare concern. I would recommend the program to anyone interested both in practically and theoretically developing their art writing, which is to say that you both are given great sources for understanding the history of art, the history of images and visual culture, but also have extremely supportive teachers who want to help you become a young critic out in the world. And for me, it was both the discipline of writing regularly each week, seeing art around the city all the time, and having the incredible resources in the department, but also having the recommendations of professors when I wanted to step into a professional role as a critic and editor. I received a lot of help from the professors that I was close with, and feel like many of the writing gigs that I got at places like Art in America and the New York Times Tea Magazine were, a direct result of recommendations from professors here.